Royal Enfield's been around for about 100 years and I've never ridden one. So today out at Iron Supply in Katy, Texas, we've got the Royal Enfield demo days. I'm gonna ride a few bikes. We're gonna start with the Himalayan 450. I own an Ibex 450 and this is gonna be a great comparison between the bike that I bought last month and its top competitor. This is the standard configuration with 2 seats and a rack on the back. There is a rally version, which I have not seen until today. It's got more of like a dirt bike seat, solo seat. There's no back seat. There are still pegs. I guess you could call that a back seat. There's no rack. There's no handles. This is what I'll be riding today. So this is the factory exhaust. Kind of short and stubby. I don't mind it at all. But then they have a Royal Enfield branded Aero exhaust. This is a catback system, so you still got the stock headers and the catalytic converter box in the middle there. I don't know which I prefer. All right, we are on the 2025 Royal Enfield Himalayan 450 Rally version. Like I said before, I have never ridden a Royal Enfield, so I'm really curious to know how it feels. They've been around for a really long time. They were introduced in the early 1900s and have been built. They started on bicycles, then moved into what they called quadricycles and then motorcycles. They did military-based production for a long time. They even raced in the ISDE, which is the International 6 Days Enduro Race. They have proven themselves as being a worthy motorcycle. About a month ago, I bought a CFMoto Ibex 450 from Iron Supply here. And they even asked me while I was here, they're like, why are you buying this and not the Himalayan? Like, I'm not sure. I don't love the look of the Himalayan, and I'm really curious to know if I like the ride quality better. So we'll see how it goes. Fairly smooth. 4th gear's got a good decent pull to it. It's taller than I expected. This might just be because of the rally seat, but definitely feels tall compared to where the gauges and bars are. I feel like I'm on top of the bike rather than in the cockpit like I do on my Ibex. And for reference, I'm 6 feet tall. I've ridden hundreds of motorcycles. I've owned 60 some odd motorcycles, maybe 70 at this point, I'm not even sure. So I've got a lot of experience on different kinds of motorcycles, off-road, on-road, adventure, sport bike racing, all kinds of things. Getting on the highway. Now, one thing I really enjoy about my Ibex is how comfortable it is just to cruise on. This feels more like a naked sport bike of sorts. Like, I've got dirt bike style bars, I've got small windscreen. Obviously you can get an aftermarket screen, but there's no cowling, there's no like area around the tank to make it feel big, and that's a good thing if you plan to take this off-road. You might not be as hesitant to try some trails that are narrower if you feel like you're on a smaller bike. I will say the mirrors are a bit buzzy compared to my Ibex. I can feel some buzz in the bars too, but it's not terrible. You might have said shift up to 5th. Well, I'm only going 50 miles an hour. One thing I would like to point out, I didn't say it as I got on the bike, but this does feel like a heavier bike than the Ibex when I first tipped it off of the side stand. Like, it took a little bit more effort to come up off the side stand when starting to ride. I don't know if that's going to be a difference if you are trying to pick it up if you were to have a tip over in the woods, but it's worth noting that it did feel different. These chirping wheels behind me. Fairly narrow front of the tank, moves to a wider tank. It is a welded steel tank, so that's kind of cool. Now, I read some of the reviews of this in preparation for this video, and one of the common complaints was a very common complaint amongst the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450 and the Ibex 450. The suspension is not nearly as adjustable as you would want for something that you are taking off-road, but keep this in mind. This is a beginner level motorcycle. This isn't something people are going to go out and do hair scramble races with. This is somebody who's just getting into the ADV side of motorcycling and wants to dip their feet in and say, okay, do I like this? Do I want to do something small before I jump up to, say, an Africa Twin or even like a Transalp? The seat isn't superbly comfortable, but it's not uncomfortable. The simplicity of the dash is nice, but I do feel like the dash is really low. Like I'm looking up here and I have to look intentionally down to look at my speed or anything else on the gauges. Standing is comfortable. The rally seat, it gives me a nice tank to grab, or a nice grab spot for my knees. I could use some taller bars or lower pegs. That way I could feel more comfortable at speed. And you say at speed you're going 50 miles an hour. Yes. When I went for a ride last weekend on my Ibex, I'm doing 60 on access roads. So standing at speed is important. It is also worth noting, this is a cheaper price point than the Ibex 450. You can get into this for about $800–900 less than the Ibex. So weights between the two, they're very comparable. I almost feel like this is a bit sportier than the Ibex is. But I'm doing 60 miles per hour. I've got one hand off the bars. It's very planted. It does have a bit of a bounce to it, but it's comfortable. Again, I don't hate the seat, but it is fairly narrow. So if you're not used to riding on dirt bikes, you might think the seat is too small, because this is not the same style seat as a cruiser or even a sport bike. You don't have a big seat pan to sit on. The brakes seem to operate all right. I don't love the levers though. The levers are a bit wide and feel strange to me, but I'm coming from somebody who I ride with very narrow and short levers usually. Second gear has a bit of a lag to it. It's not like a fueling issue, it's just very low in the gearing, so it kind of grumbles at you. But once you hit third gear, that's where it starts to pull. Makes me wonder about the off-road, like being in second gear, lower RPMs, would you need to shift into first to get through some of the technical stuff? I keep noticing there's a shift point indicator. When I get to about 5,000 RPM, it says shift up. I don't know where the red line is because there's no color on this version of the gauge. There might be different backgrounds I could change to, but I'm not certain where red line is. Shifting at 5,000 seems a bit low, but for a single cylinder 450, I guess that makes sense. Being as the Ibex is a parallel twin, it can do those higher RPMs. You can wind it out on the highway. You can do 85-ish miles per hour. They tell me that you can do 80 to 85, 80 to 90 on this. I'm not going to have the chance to test it today with this demo ride, but it's a very smooth transmission, very easy to use. It doesn't feel clunky. I do keep feeling like I want to be in a lower gear than I am, so that would take some getting used to. Now, I mentioned the exhaust. This is an aftermarket Can silencer on the bike. It's an Aero exhaust. It's not obnoxiously loud. It has a nice grumble to it. I can hear it, but it's not obnoxious by any means. So far, I feel like this would be a good cruise around bike. I think this could be an entry-level bike for somebody if they're tall enough. It is a very high seat height for a beginner bike. Somebody told me before I jumped on it, they said, it reminds me of a Ninja 400, and I would have to agree. I feel like the seating position, the bars, the power, it feels like a Ninja 400. So I'm curious to know, if you're watching this video, are you considering a Royal Enfield? Do you already have a Royal Enfield? Have you ever purchased an adventure bike before? Leave a comment below as to why you're interested in this specific model, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have about it. All right, here's a fun test. Let's see how easily I can find neutral. Oh man, that was easy. That was smooth. That was almost Kawasaki smooth. It sounds good for a single cylinder. And keep this in mind too. This is not a 450 dirt bike, so the power curve is going to be very different than a single cylinder 450 dirt bike. So what I mean by that is this is not going to rip the bike out of your hands as you accelerate. This is not a race bike. This is not a bike that you're going to take and go to the drag strip, or I mean, you can have fun with it, but it's not a fast bike. This has got to be the straightest line demo ride I've ever done. It's like we're making a rectangle. It doesn't help that we're doing 30 miles per hour. Ooh, that's interesting. I went from second to neutral. That's something you can't do on a lot of other bikes. It's a safety feature to not do that. I feel like like these are really wide grips too. Like almost as wide as like a Harley grip. Maybe that's just me, but it doesn't feel like my other motorcycle grips. This may be a feature of the Rally, but these are hard-mounted metal brush guards. On the Ibex, you've got plastic ones, so they kind of are flimsy. That's one of the first things people change if they do go off-road with them. But having metal brush guards means that you don't have to worry as much about breaking your levers in the event of a tip over. So that's cool that they come from the factory like that. But again, it might be just the Rally version. So I have seen some other videos of the Royal Enfield doing very aggressive enduro style riding. So I'm aware that it's capable of it. But I don't jump on this and go, okay, let's go on an adventure. Let's go run through the Sam Houston National Forest. Whereas when I sat on the Ibex, I was like, yes, trail bike, let's do it. This feels almost cafe rider-ish. So I'm looking for places to mount accessories. Like, where would I put a GPS on this? Like, I've got the Carpy Ride on my Ibex and I've got that above my gauges, but I guess maybe I could find a mount that goes onto this and raises it up, but you'd have to change the windscreen to do that or go above the windscreen. But the side cages do have little loops in them right here. I'll try to zoom in post camera, but you could run straps through that to hold bags in the event that you want to put luggage on the front. They do make racks for the back. I've seen top cases, side cases, soft luggage, hard luggage, all kinds of accessories for this bike. All right, let's talk about my thoughts on my purchase versus this bike, because this is, again, the first time I've ridden this bike, or any Royal Enfield. I feel like I made the right purchase for myself in the sense that I knew I wanted to go off-road, and I knew I wanted something for driving to the forest, which is an hour away, and then riding the trails. I feel like this could do it, but I think the extra money spent on the comfort and features of the Ibex was a good buy for me. Not saying I don't like this bike, but I don't immediately fall in love with it, especially since I just bought its top competitor last month. I think for the price, it's a solid buy. I think for the new rider, again, tall enough, solid purchase. So I've done some work with an MSF adventure bike class, and they are picking up a bunch of these bikes to train people on, and I think that's a good route to go because it's not intimidating. You don't have all of the fairings and plastic pieces that you're worried about breaking. So in the event of a tip over, you don't have to worry about the additional costs either. So I think that's a good point to note too. One of the things that Royal Enfield's known for is their simplicity in their bikes and their motor work. So working on them is very easy to do. I'm not running this one. I didn't want to run too.
I was like, if he does it, I'll do it. Hey, I'll get the ticket.
You get the ticket, but I'm filming, so if I publish it, then I'll go to jail. I noticed a very interesting thing just there, leaving that light. I was in first gear. If I let the clutch out ever so slightly, it would increase the revs for me. Like, watch this. My hand is off the throttle, watch the tachometer. I let the clutch out, the revs go up. So it's tuned to help you not stall in very low RPMs. That's pretty sweet. I think for $5,600, you could have a lot of fun on this bike. Would I buy it myself? Probably not. Would I recommend it to somebody who is looking at their first adventure bike? I would recommend they go sit on it. Look at the features, look at the feel, see if it's something that you want to do. I think I like the standard seat better than the Rally seat, honestly, because it looks like it's a wider seat. Who knows, maybe this is better for single track. You can move on the seat a bit more, like a dirt bike. I want to thank Iron Supply for hosting this, and I also want to thank Royal Enfield for putting this on. I don't know that I would have had a chance to ride this bike without these two putting together this show, so thanks to these guys for doing it. Hopefully a video like this is helpful for you. Again, if you've got questions, leave comments below. I do my best to answer all questions that come through. My goal is to be as helpful to you as possible and get more people riding more motorcycles. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you. Ooh, what was that? I'll see you on the next bike.